What's going on, guys? It's your boy Ethan. Hope you're having a great day. Following the insane hustler week on the live stream, I am in LA and playing a friendly home game, or well, maybe not so friendly because some pots get really big, but it's a cool opportunity where myself and a few other YouTube vloggers and creators got invited to join this game. And it's a fun group. It's a wild time, and we're playing 10-25, and the straddles got freaking massive. The stacks got even bigger, and I don't know what to say besides that this video and session is utter madness. The swings have been crazy this week while in California, and yeah, hanging out with a few friends with some close buddies, got invited along, and here we are playing a home game with a fun group of guys. And like I said, Action City. So I'm gonna stop talking, let's get into the hands because things get absolutely ridiculous. I'm sure you're gonna enjoy it. Hit that like button before you hop in because I'm not even, I can't hype this up anymore. Shit gets insane. Let's hop into this 10-25 home game, uncapped max bind. So I start off with $25,000, and unbeknownst to me, we're going to play some very big hands. So let's get into it. I pick up Ace Jack offsuit. There's a $50 straddle on. Mariano opens it up to $150 here. There are 4 players who make the call. Looks like everyone's happy to enter some pots and play hands. I make the call as well for 100 more with Ace Jack. We're going to a flop of King 10 Deuce 2 diamonds. Action checks all the way around. All right, we get to see a free turn, which is a Bink Queen of Hearts. What an incredible way to start off this session. Player to my right bets out $300, and I'm sitting with Broadway, the best hand right now. There is a flush draw on the board, so want to bump up the size of the pot, want to maybe get some other players out there with draws. I raise it up to 1,000. Action folds quickly around to my opponent on my right, and ultimately he ends up calling, which is great. It's great that the pot is building and I have the nuts. It's also really cool that I'm in position, so let's go for it. The river comes the 8 of spades. Complete brick. I'm sitting with the best hand in poker, and it's music to my ears when my opponent bets out $1,200 with like $3,500, $4,000 behind. Oh my god. Seems like a pretty easy spot when he leads out on the river, and we want to get max value here in this spot for sure. So seems like an easy spot to just announce all in. I jam. It's about a $4,000 to $5,000 all in, and he doesn't snap call, so it's pretty obvious he doesn't have Broadway as well. So I'm just praying for a call, hoping to win it, and he says he might have to rebuy, and then sticks in the call. I show, I win. He said he has a set, which is a pretty huge cooler. Pretty lucky turn for me overall, and just like that, first hand in, I turn the nuts and win a big one, making poker to look really easy right now. Hopefully that first hand was a good sign that good things are going to come. I have pocket nines, and there's a $100 straddle on. Let's play 50-100, why not? I'm first to act and raise it up to 300. Fold around to the $50 straddler, and he calls, and then the player to my right, 100 on the $100 straddle, he calls as well. So multi-way to a flop of 6-5 deuce 2 diamonds. Action checks to the player to my right, the player that I just beat last hand. He decides to bet out and lead for $500. Interesting spot. Looking at his stack, he has about $2,000 total, so with my overpair, plenty of draws out there, and expect my hand to be good a lot of the time potentially, I decide to raise it up to $1,500. The $50 straddler folds, and the player to my right ends up going all in. Obviously, it's only about like $500 or a couple $100 more, so definitely making the call, and I show my hand and end up running it once. The run out comes ace, then 3. A whole lot of stuff beat me here now, lots of 2 pairs and he straights, but when I show my hand, he ends up folding, so he mucks his cards. I end up winning this one again. I stacked the same opponent twice. Unfortunate for him to start off this session, and yeah, this has only been 30 minutes into the session, but I've already been winning a lot, and there's a lot more action to come. In the next spot, I pick up the infamous pocket jacks on the big blind. Once again, there is a $100 straddle on, and action folds around to the button. He raises it up to $375. In the big blind versus the button player, I am going to put in a 3-bet here and size up on the larger side as I'm out of position. I 3-bet it up to $1,500. Folds around to the $100 straddler. It is no other than our buddy Mariano, and he decides to ramp up the aggression. You know how he plays. He's always aggressive, and 4 bets to 3,600. Quickly folds to me, and how quickly has this hand gotten a little bit out of control? Pocket jacks, I'm not super comfortable with this hand, but it's certainly good enough to defend and play. It sucks to be out of position, but versus a strong opponent, here we are, time to battle. I make the call. Going to a flop of 9-7 deuce, all diamonds. So I pick up the overpair. I have the diamond draw as well. I start off with a check in this 4-bet pot, and Mariano bets out 2,300. Of course, it doesn't seem like there's much of a decision here. I have an overpair. I also have a diamond to fall back on if somehow a 4th diamond comes out. So let's see a turn which comes the 4 of diamonds. So no longer having my overpair, now the jack high flush. I check it over to him, and he bets small once again for 3,500. I'm obviously not loving this situation at this point because, you know, my jack high flush can easily be beat by any queen, king, or ace high flush. He has all of the overpairs in the world. He has all the ace kings and ace queens in the world with the diamonds. So I'm feeling a little bit stuck. I don't think I can fold for this price just yet, so I make the call. Now we're going to a river now, which comes a board pairing 4. It's essentially a brick. I don't assume Mariano is going to have pocket 9s, 7s, or deuces here to boat up. So I think about it for a while, and I think there's actually an option to block bet small. Thinking of potentially betting like 10 or 20% pot, but the reasoning for that is that it does make my life easy if Mariano decides to raise me after the small block bet, but after a while, I decided that maybe I could save some money by checking. I don't know. I decided to check after thinking about betting for a while, and upon this check, Mariano blasts out 9,000. Oh dear God. Brad Owen was very much correct. There is no right way to play this hand, and yeah, I'm going to go into the tank for a while because this is a big bet. The pot is ballooning up, and I know that Mariano is a strong player who is very much going to have some bluffs here, along with some very strong hands, like I just said. Jack high flush is very vulnerable, could be beat a lot of the time, and I don't know, it's tough. It's kind of ridiculous to think about folding a jack high flush, but at the same token, the bet is so big, I guess I just have to give him credit for having a good hand. I kind of just like toss a coin in my head and ended up on folding. I believe him, I show my hand as well, and Mariano was nice enough to show me on his phone that he did have the ace of diamonds followed by the queen of clubs. So if you watched his vlog on this session, you can certainly check out his perspective there, but nice hand to Mariano, you got the better of me in this one. Following that pot with Mariano, we play another interesting one with king queen of clubs. We're on the $50 straddle here. Folds around to the button, who raises to $150. The small blind makes the call, and I have a decision here actually. Could certainly go for a 3-bet, or I also can call as well, thinking both options are in play. And, you know, if you watch my channel, you know that increasing the size of the pot is something that I kind of frequently like to do. So I decided to 3-bet to $750, and when the button folds, surprisingly, the small blind makes the call again. So getting the small blind to call in 2 spots so far pre-flop. Nice thing is that we're in position against him. So let's go to a flop of 9-8-4 2 diamonds. He checks it over to me here, and I'm sitting with absolutely nothing, completely whiffed on this flop, and I think this should favor my opponent more than me. So with king high, I kind of just like wave the white flag essentially and check. Before the dealer gives me a king on the turn, how beautiful is this sitting with top pair now? When he checks for a second time, I am definitely going to be betting again and trying to size a little bit up here. I sized to $1,300, thinking that this king should hit me a lot more, and now I've improved to a pretty good hand to get value from. Anyways, this player makes the call for $1,300, and here we are going to the river, and think about the best and most ideal river card. Guys, it is another king! Maybe not the most ideal as the flush draw did get there, but I've improved the trips. I have no reason to believe that my hand is beat. So when this player checks for a 3rd time, definitely trying to go for value, but I just don't want to bomb it off because I want a hand that has like a 9 to call. You know, I don't want to fold out any 9s, fold out any pocket pairs. So I decided on an amount of $2,500, and this player snap calls on my bet. Should be good news as this player didn't raise me. I'm not up against a flush. And when I show my hand, he says that he also had a king too. Running into these coolers, it's just nice to be on the other and the right side of these coolers, and a good way to rebound from the last hand. Looks like I'm picking up premiums today because the following hand, ace king offsuit, I'm once again in the $50 straddle. There is a hijack limp to $50, small blind raises to $150, and you already know with a premium hand that looks this good, I am bumping it up again, so I 3-bet to $600. Well, you know what's fun is that when action folds to the small blind, he thinks 600 isn't enough and actually decides to 4-bet to 2200. Oh boy. From my perspective, it looks like this opponent has about $6,000 in his stack. And with the $50 straddle on, he's sitting with just a hair over 100 big blinds. Ace King is a hand that is pretty comfortable with just getting it all in pre-flop. So when my opponent elects to 4-bets, I'm sure he has a good hand, but let's go with a flip. Hopefully he has queens. Hopefully he has jacks. So I'm going to go for it. I decide to go all in, and he snap calls with aces. Couldn't be in a worse situation. At least if he had kings, I have one clean overcard. When he has aces, there's not much to win. So the run out comes, no surprise here, aces is going to win, and guess what's even worse? I have a bad habit of being really bad at counting out chips. This player ended up having closer to $9,000, a total of $8,960. That's a double bad beat. I'm really bad at counting chips, and on top of that, I ran into aces, so there's that. I'm really bad at estimating, and I pay him the $8,960. This was a very, very unfortunate hit to have my ace-king run to his aces. All right, 2 deals later, the dealer decides to reward me or potentially punish me. I have ace-king once again in the small blind. The $50 straddle is on, and there are 2 players who limp. I decided to bump up the pressure because that's what you do with ace-king apparently. Maybe I can win this time. I raise it up to 300, and both of the limpers decide to call. So plenty of action here on this game and on this table. The flop comes 10, 10, 5, 2 diamonds. On this paired board, I'm just kind of praying that ace-king is good or no one has a 10, so I decided to bet small, $250, and I was really close to getting it through, but only one of the limpers decided to call, so now let's just play heads up to a turn, which is a bink ace. Yep, how good am I at poker? All you have to do is bet and then get there on the turn. I decided to actually slow down on this turn card here and check. I think a lot of the hands that I have here won't contain an ace a lot of the time unless it's right now. Anyways, he decides to bet out $575 for me, which is awesome. Looking at his stack, I might be wrong, but it looks like he has about $5,200 behind. So, you know, with the pot building and how big it is already, there is a flush draw as well. I decided to just go all in. Seems like a really big one, but it just seemed like my hand was good here in this spot. And if he does have a 10, then another cooler, good for you. But ultimately, he does end up making the call. All of a sudden, this pot has ballooned the hell up, playing with over $10,000 in the middle. And I show my hand. Apparently, ace-king is ahead right now. We're off to 2 runouts as the player wanted to run it twice. Both rivers looked relatively clean, and he mucks. Nice to win this one. I didn't get the full like $9,000 back that I lost from the first ace-king hand, but this is a rebound. It seems like a theme of today so far is to just win a big hand, then lose another big one immediately after. Let's just try to keep on this winning streak here. In the following spot we go, there is surprisingly no straddle here in this hand, but I pick up a premium once again. I have pocket queens in the hijack, and there's an early position raise to 175. Wow, that's a pretty big raise. And next player to act 3-bets to $550. Oh my god, it is Action City here. Well, you know, I am definitely not going to fold queens, and I'm definitely going to get involved into this pot. I decided to 4-bet and raise it up again to $1,300. And you know what gets a little ridiculous? Both of the players' early position and the next player to act makes the call of $1,300. This might be one of the biggest pots built pre-flop all day. And what's even cooler is that both players are sitting with about 20,000 behind. So let's go for it. The flop comes 8-5-3, 2 hearts. Action checks to me on this pretty safe board, and I'm in position, and I definitely want to bet. The queens need some protection here, so I decided to bet about a third pot of 1,300. Well, when the early position player original opener decides to check raise me to a massive sizing of $7,000, the other opponent ends up folding. All right, now we're going heads up here in this decision. And this sizing is just massive. I'm looking at a stack behind the $7,000 check raise. He has about 12 to 14,000 behind. I'm estimating now at a range because I'm obviously wrong a lot of the time, so it seems like a pretty easy decision to just close my eyes, rip it all in, and hope my overpair is good and hold. Like I said, there are some draws that he could have, and I guess I do beat nines through jacks, so here we are. I decide to rip it all in, about 20,000 total, and this player does not snap call, so that is great. Great news to always fade the snap call when I go all in with just one pair. And he ends up actually saying out loud that he's blasting. So I don't know what this means, but he ends up making the call. And I show my pocket queens. I am ahead. It's confirmed. It's a good feeling to have. But when this player wants to run it twice, I'm always happy to oblige, so let's go do that. The first run out comes so disastrous, as any ace makes a straight. The second run out pairs the 8, so top pair now turns into trips. I am not feeling at all confident in either of these runouts. And this player shows me ace 3 of spades. What? Luckily, we actually end up chopping because if we ran it once, I would have lost this, but pretty rough to get it in so good. And just like that, we see a $40,000 pot. Safe to say, after seeing the runouts here, I am pretty annoyed at this point. Could have gotten over a $20,000 profit in this hand, but it's just a chop. All right, everyone, if you thought that last hand was full of action, strap the hell in for this one. I have pocket fives, and there's a $100 straddle on. There's an early position raised to $300. I'm in position of this guy, and I make the call, and we get 2 other players to call as well, the $50 and $100 straddle. So 4 ways I'm in position to a flop that is beautiful in 10-3-5 pink city for us. Action checks to me, so unfortunate that no one wants to put money in the pot, but I'm happy to do it myself. I decide to put in a value bet of $500. I get 1 player to make the call, and the player that we just battled in last hand, he's involved, and he decides to check raise a massive one to 2,500. All right, action folds to me, and I just chopped a $40,000 pot against this opponent. Can we play another one and hopefully get some of those chips back? I decided to just make the call, as it's basically just time for me to hold here, hoping to just win, see a clean run out, because I want all of his bluffs to continue betting and barreling. So when I make the call, you know what's sick? The other player calls too. Oh my god. This pot has ballooned up, and I guess, like I said, it's time to hold with my set. We're off to a turn. Pot is massive, multi-way, and it's an offsuit 4. Complete brick city. This is what I wanted to see. What I didn't want to see, though, surprisingly, is that both players actually checked to me. So the check raiser didn't end up barreling a second time, but I've got to go for value. There's plenty of stuff to get value from, top pairs, draws, just unlimited things. So I decided to size up to 4,500. It's about a half pot bet. Trying to get value, just trying to get some money in, and when the first opponent folds, unfortunately, he's not going to be involved, but he did only have like a 5K stack. What's more important is this next player with 15,000 in his stack, and he decides to go all in. Snippety snap, let's freaking go. I call with my set. I showed immediately. It just has to be good in this spot. Unless he has 10s, then I hate my life. But I show my set. It's ahead right now, and he announces that he is on a draw. We decide to run it twice. Once again, the pot is massive. I'm happy to oblige. No diamond, please. The river comes club. He has jack 4 of diamonds, and I end up holding in a massive way. Pretty sick turn. He ends up turning a pair and flush draw, but this time, this massive pot does not end up getting chopped. and all of the chips end up getting scooped my way. Oh my god, I am riding such a high right now. There's so much money in here, and I'll be honest, hands were kind of shaky holding the camera, but here we are winning a massive pot that finally doesn't get chomped. Seems like some run good finally went my way. There is almost no time to celebrate at that massive pot because the very next deal I pick up ace king of diamonds. There's no straddle and playing normal 10-25 now after that pot. There's an early position raise to $75 and you know I'm in here. I decide to 3-bet to 300 and upon my 3-bet I get 4 players to call around. Action City, everyone wants some of this smoke, so let's get after it. 5 ways to a flop we go of ace 7-5 rainbow and action checks to me. Pretty dry flop. I think my hand's gonna be good here with top, so I decide to bet small $500. Small blind decides on a call, but the big blind decides that he has other options at play here and decides to actually check raise to $1,900 with about $1,200 behind. This is some interesting news as I've seen this player play now for a while. We're about 5 to 6 hours into the session and I haven't seen this player check raise one time at all within this entire session. So seems like he's playing pretty snug, and considering we're multi-way on this flop, it's not unreasonable to think that he has a set here or something. Because of the board texture of how dry it is, there's no flush draws available. It's really hard to pull bluffs that he's going to be check raising with. And considering, like I said, I haven't seen him get out of line, I just won a massive pot. Sure, I can easily just commit my stack and probably lose $3,000 a lot of the time, right? But I feel like the whole point of playing is to just try to be as profitable as possible. And when was the last time you've ever seen me fold top pair, top kicker to just one raise? Probably never, but at this point, I believe his story. He just must have 2 pair or something. I don't know. I end up just folding. It's difficult and painful to do, especially after winning a $40,000 pot. But anyways, when I fold, the other player ends up folding. And this player that check raised doesn't look happy and announces that he had 2 pair. I don't think he's lying. He said he had ace 7, and I'm just glad I got away. Sometimes, rarely, sometimes folding is not boring. As the session is winding down, we enter the last significant hand of the night, and it's just complete fireworks. So let's get into it. I pick up pocket jacks once again. You know how well pocket jacks did last time. I'm on the button with the $50 straddle on, and the low jack raises to $150. I decide to 3-bet him in position to 500, and guess what? Our good old friend Mariano, once again, he decides to 4-bet to $2,000. Action folds to me, this is a pretty damn big 4-bet, but we're also playing extremely deep stacked against him. He's got about 40,000 in front of him. I have more, and last time I played pocket jacks, it didn't go great, but this time I'm in position, so why not just battle again? We're gonna go to a flop when I make the call of 10-6 deuce. Pretty dry, disconnected, and an overall safe flop for pocket jacks, but you know Mariano, he doesn't care. He decides to put in a bet of $1,200. For $1,200, as played with jacks with my overpair, nothing to do besides make the call and see a turn. Turn comes the 3 of diamonds. It's a complete brick. It's not even notable to say 4-5 is a straight here, so, you know, whatever. Anyways, he decides to fire out again, but this time he decides to bet big. And when I mean big, it's $8,500, about 120% pot bet. I would say that's sizable. Already feeling pretty unhappy and uncomfortable with the situation. He's obviously very capable of having lots of bluffs here, but also he's very capable of having all of the hands that beat us, like queens, kings, aces, all very likely, as he did cold 4-bet us out of position. So yeah, not feeling comfortable, but I know he's capable of making big bluffs. I just have to pray and hold here, so I make the call for $8,500, which may or may not be incorrect in hindsight, but here we are to the river, and it is a board pairing 3. And you know what makes me more uncomfortable than an $8,500 bet? It's him announcing all in. Yeah. That's not a small all-in at that. I ask for a count, and I am once again in a miserable spot against Mariano with these pocket jacks. What the hell is going on? The dealer counts it out, and the total amount is $29,055. What to do? I cover him, so all of that amount is in there. That is all in play. And if I call, I would, 29,000 is up for grabs, essentially. All the things are going through my mind are that he's only repping aces and maybe kings here in this spot. Of course, he can have queens that goes for really thin value, but with this line, he's mainly just repping aces. And that's almost it. And of course, aces, kings, and queens beat me. Well, what I'm also thinking about is that, like I said, Mariano's a strong player, so he's very capable of having tons of bluffs. He could be doing this with, let's count, ace, king, ace, queen, king, queen, missed club draws that probably wouldn't want to barrel this big on the turn, so that's discounted. I think Mariano's also a savage enough to maybe turn a 10x holding into a bluff, knowing that his top pair isn't good and he blocks some sets. I don't know, but I think about this for a while, and I think I'm pretty indifferent whether I want to call or not. And when I'm feeling this way, and against a very capable opponent, I always just lean towards a call, so... if I call, it's an $80,000 pot, and that would be good content. Maybe not good for my wallet, but it's what I do. It's going to be an insane freaking pot regardless, so I toss in the call. Hopefully, show me something that loses to jacks. He has ace-queen offsuit. Oh my god, I win a monster pot. Holy shit. It stings a little bit, obviously winning such an outrageously big pot against a close friend of mine, but well played by Mariano, let's be honest here. He's the only person that's really capable of pulling off these insane bluffs, and the issue is that the time that he's going to have it, he's gonna get paid a lot because of lines and hands like this. But luckily this time I was correct. In hindsight, maybe a fold is more correct, but in real time, just enjoy the chip porn. Such an absurd stack. I don't know what to say. Tonight was pretty fucking insane. What started as a friendly home game quickly turned into some straddling and some uncapped buy-in-ness. And I'm pulling up my phone right now because we have some numbers to go over, and they are a little significant after that last big pot. Whew. I don't know what to say. It's been a wild week here in LA. It's been insane. It's been a few days after the Hustler stream, and let's just run the numbers. I was in the game for 45,000. I started with 25,000 and then, won some pots, lost some pots. And end of the day, I ended up cashing out for $110,800, making it a very, very significant win. The second biggest win of the week. The second biggest win of my life in a cash game, second biggest pot I've ever won, third biggest pot I've ever played. A lot of milestones, just a pretty long night, played for about 7.5 hours as well. Just insane. Lucky to be correct with the pocket jacks. I don't know if it was against anyone else I would ever call. I don't even know if that's a correct call. Anyways, it ended up working out in my favor and it went the right way. So there's that. Thank you so much for watching to the end. I'm kind of speechless. It's hard to jumble in thoughts because I'm so new to this high stakes cash game world. Pots get really big, hands get really big, decisions get really significant, and it felt like at the end of the day with the jacks, it felt like I was flipping, whether I'd be good or not. And I flipped right. I called tails, it landed on tails, and that's kind of how I feel about that big hand. So just really fortunate that today went well, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please leave a like because these videos are freaking insane, this LA trip. And more cash games to come, more tournaments to come, a lot of stuff. It's been a crazy journey so far this year playing poker, and I can't wait for more. So thank you so much for sticking to the end, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Today was just fucking surreal.